Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar Hamid. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. Today, I have Matthew Stibbe here today. He's a marketing genius, and we're going to talk marketing, in essence, how you as a human being communicate with other human beings on the other side of a website, social media, or just something they used to call letters. Now we call them emails. It's going to be brilliant. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And of course, you are in the UK and I'm in Canada. Most of the time I spend in the US. And I really like that. I'm going to screw up this phrase. It's like two countries separated by a language, the Yanks versus the Brits.
Divided by a common language. Yeah, I don't know who said
go.
that, whether it was Churchill or somebody else. There's some classic stories about that. I remember reading Churchill's war memoirs, and in American English, when you table something,
yes,
it means
put it
one
aside,
thing.
don't touch it again.
Yeah, right. Like, let's park this. We don't want to discuss it. And in English, especially to parliamentarians, to table something means to propose it.
Yes.
So the Joint Chiefs of Staff are having these very kind of complicated conversations, and they thought they meant completely different things. Certainly, as a marketer myself, I've made a living working for American companies over here in England. So Microsoft and Hewlett Packard and Google and LinkedIn have been my clients over the years. And a lot of what I have done for them has been cultural translation.
Yes.
And I don't mean replacing baseball metaphors with cricket metaphors or changing the spelling, although that's a thing.
Essentially,
It's I think English people, I mean, this is reducing it to a cliche, and it's probably not fair, but I think Americans expect and want a little bit more selling to.
Yes.
And English need a little bit more, if you're selling too hard and trying too hard, it's off-putting, and kind of calibrating that between, even though it's the same language, can sometimes be hard.
Absolutely. And what's kind of interesting is if I was talking to a friend and they kind of twisted my arm and asked me to talk about myself and, you know, how fabulous I am, it could happen. I could talk about that. But if there was somebody that I was attracted to, that I really wanted, sometimes you get tongue-tied, and the eloquence you had a moment ago with a friend is gone. And when we look at marketing, oftentimes companies have an internal conversation about what they do. And when they try and take that same conversation to the masses, there's a disconnect, because oftentimes the customers value them and see them differently than they see themselves. So can you talk about one of the clients you had like that and how you got them to cross the Rubicon and actually see what you're talking about was reality and not craziness?
You've put your finger on something quite important. It's true in technology companies, and I'm sure in other sectors, that the thing that made you successful is knowing your stuff, knowing your product, knowing your technology, being proficient at it, and being very, and therefore you tend to look at the rest of the world and think, well, if they understood what I understood and knew how clever I was or how clever our technology is, they would automatically want to buy it, right? So the tendency is, let's talk about our stuff in our language using our jargon. And we get a lot of clients who want to do lots of product literature and lots of feature comparisons. So then they think, well, the next step forward is I'm going to be really careful, mindful of my competitors, and how are we talking about our stuff, and how does it compare with how they're talking about stuff like our stuff, right? Here, I'm in a marketplace. I've got a product, and there are 10 other products like it. So let's now talk about features and speed and feeds. And
we've got this thing here. They haven't even thought about it.
Right. And that gets you a little bit further along, at least you'll begin. But the reality is, most people who are buying your product are spending most of their time not thinking about you, your product, or your competitors. They've got a job to be done, they've got a problem to be solved, they've got a need they have to fill, and they will spend exactly the amount of time it requires to figure out how to solve that and then move on. So that the imaginative leap that marketers help clients take is to start talking about potential customers, their problems, needs, ambitions in their language as the context for talking about your stuff in your language, right? So invite them in and have a conversation about, well, we understand your world. We understand the problems you've got. Here are some ways you can solve it. And by the way, one of the ways you can solve it is with our product that potentially solves it like this, and so on and so on. But that is the order of the conversation, talking about other people's stuff in their language, not about your stuff in yours. And I call this the man in the mirror problem, right?
Right.
People who are entrepreneurs or techies want to talk about their stuff because they think that the people who are buying it are the same as the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror. So that getting across that barrier, getting across that bridge is the most exciting, but also the most challenging part of marketing.
What's kind of interesting is when you talk to a client's customers, say, hey, you've been dealing with ABC company. What value do they provide you? And those answers are gold because number one, they articulate exactly what you provide them. And more importantly, they use the exact language that's meaningful to them. And there's a good chance people that are like them, their men and women in the mirror, will respond to that as well. But seems like, common sense 101, but most companies don't do that. Why do you think that is? Because marketing is atrocious everywhere. And I know the worst company in the world for marketing, guilty, we really suck at it and we're trying hard and we still are not getting it.
Physician, heal thyself. We also struggle with marketing ourselves and doing what we say to other people to do. It's not unusual. I think businesses need to do exactly what you say, a bit of business anthropology. Let's go and find out, who are our happy, successful customers? What do they get from us that they like? Why did they like it? And let's talk about that to people like them. I remember years ago doing a lot of marketing for a Microsoft product called Small Business Server 2003, which
it's an exciting product. My heart's racing now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it had a whole ton. Right, the name itself isn't exactly inspirational, but it had a whole ton of technology in it. I mean, it was an amazing thing, and it was, the value proposition was really clear. It was a very good price, and so on and so on. And we did a lot of focus groups on small business owners, about some of whom had it, some of whom didn't, what they liked, and what their problems were. And of all this range of technology in the box, I mean, it was an amazing. It did everything. The thing that came up again and again and again for small business owners was backup. That was the thing that they were bothered about, having their data protected, secured. If there was a fire or a theft in their office, they had a copy of it. And backup was 5% of Small Business Server, but that was the hook. So we started talking about, being safe in your business and giving people access to the data and making sure that, you can sleep at night and things like that. That was the thing, one of the things that motivated people. But you have to ask, you have to talk. And we, as a marketing agency, turn that conversation, a business anthropology, into a number of artifacts, into marketing personas. So descriptions of the people who are buying your product and their pain points and needs and ambitions. Ideal client profile, what companies are buying your technology if it's B2B, tone of voice messaging, tone of voice guidelines, like how do we speak, messaging guidelines, what is it that we're trying to say? We talk about backup because small business owners are concerned about sleeping at night, not losing all their data and their business going up in smoke. Packaging all of that up in a way that then is delivered consistently across all the touch points. That's the work that marketers do. And we have this, sometimes we have these conversations with people, with potential clients. Oh, I don't want to do all that. Can we just get straight to the marketing? And we have to persuade them sometimes. You actually need to have this. You have to have the documentation. You have to have the consistency, but you have to do the research. Otherwise, the money you spend on marketing could be spent on all the wrong things and in all the wrong directions. So let's get the strategy right, and then the execution will be much more efficient.
So I get all of that, but then you have to sell it within the organization. So talk to me about
it all comes with a cost, right?
Yeah. So tell me about the selling, first getting the marketing folks at Microsoft to buy in and say, okay, we agree with this, but then getting everybody from the frontline customer support people to the inside sales people. So how does that work? And how long does it take to actually get them indoctrinated?
I'd make a very big distinction between the multinational clients that we have had, have, where we deal with professional marketing managers who are marketing planners and strategists. So we're talking to them about, in their language.
Right.
We very rarely have to persuade them, although sometimes we bring insights that they didn't have, or perspectives they didn't have, or capabilities they don't have. That's a relatively, in my experience, a relatively easy conversation. The most challenging conversations we have in terms of selling marketing, marketing is with owner managers of small and medium-sized companies, and very typically they have built up a business to a certain size and success by being very good at the technology, by being good salespeople, by having a network of contacts and selling out, and whatever it is that got them to a certain point. And then they hit this ceiling because they can't grow anymore. The thing that got them where they are won't take them any further. And that's a very hard conversation to have, because you have to say, look, everything you've done so far, fantastic. We're not saying stop that, but you've run out of steam. Now you need to go and look at what Microsoft is doing, what Dell is doing, they are doing strategic marketing, they are doing branding, they are doing positioning, they've got clear messages, they've got a tone of voice, they've got stories they're telling, they're understanding their customers, they're targeting people. And you need to move in that direction, move towards professional, grown-up, joined-up marketing. And sometimes people get it and they very ambitiously embrace that, and sometimes they find that quite hard because it's a new area of expertise and it's a new way of doing things that they haven't done before. The way that, if you can persuade them, the way that we persuade them is by saying, and here are the results if you do this, and here is why it matters, and here is how we do it, and here is somebody else we've done it for who you can talk to. This is the journey we're going to take you on. I had one of my former clients, we worked with them for 2 years. At the end of that, they got bought by a multinational. So they were very happy, successful outcome for them. But I took him out for lunch. And at the end of it, he said, working with you was like doing an MBA in marketing, because we learned so much about marketing on the way. They went from one junior marketing person to a marketing team, and from 20 people to about 100 and something people in the space of 2 years. It's a very well-run, successful business, but we did the marketing for that.
Brilliant. So when you're dealing with a new client, pretend I'm your client, what are some of the questions you ask to A, figure out what's going on, and B, provide insights to the people that you're talking to? Like, are there any common kind of strategies to unravel what's going on?
Yeah, I think we like to start by understanding successful clients of yours. So, who do you sell to? Why do they buy from you? What is different between you and the other things that they might be choosing to do this? What are their alternatives? Yeah, we look at competition, but we also look at the competition of doing nothing. What happens if they, what if they don't buy your product? What's the need? We're really trying to get at their pain points, actually, and understand that. And, you have the conversation and you say, well, why do people buy from you? Oh, well, because we're friendly. We know what we're talking about. We're good at our job. We've got all these certifications. If it's a services company, or our product has XYZ feature, which makes it better than, these other features. And you go, okay, fine. Let's keep digging into that, 5 whys. You have to keep asking the question, because it's usually the pat answer is usually trivial, superficial, because they haven't thought beyond it. That answer has been good enough up to that point. So we tend to have these sort of, typically for a full strategy onboarding, there are 8 to 10 hours of workshops, and we're discussing, all of that about products, customers, pain points, but we're also trying to understand the motivations of a business, what their business goals are, what their innate tone of voice is. And you said earlier something which I think is a nice, true point. When they're talking amongst themselves, they talk differently than when they talk to customers. What do they like when they talk amongst themselves? What is the true voice of the business? And we spend quite a lot of time exploring that. And we do quite a lot of analytics modeling, looking at traffic growth and SEO and content planning and some of the more practical marketing things.
Let's talk about SEO. So what is SEO? If you were telling your mom about SEO, explain it like that.
Oh, well, okay. I think at its heart, SEO, search engine optimization, is about getting your website found on Google for things that potential customers
Looking
are
for
searching for. Yeah. And things where you have something sensible to say about those questions, right? I mean, anybody can get found for celebrity gossip or something. That's, that's not the purpose of SEO. And there's a sort of I do a little diagram where I map out what perfect SEO is. So, the stuff you want to talk about, your products and services mainly, the stuff your customers, potential customers, want to find out about, some of which is related to what you do and most of it is not. The stuff you can actually answer, you can actually write about it or be found for it, because there are lots of questions you can't answer. You don't know, you literally don't have the data, or you don't have the insights. And then the last bit of that kind of Venn diagram is, what do we need to do with our pages, with our text, that will help Google find them and put us high up on the first page if possible, or high up on its listing for the stuff we want to talk about, for the stuff our customers want to read about, for the stuff that we have answers for. And there is an input into providing good content that comes from understanding how people are searching for it and understanding how Google ranks pages for it. And there's a technical piece. So anyone who says, I can make your traffic grow and you don't have to talk to me, is probably selling you snake oil.
Yes.
Fundamentally, SEO is about producing content, information that ranks well on Google for questions that people are asking, right? So you have to be, in Google's words, expert, authoritative, and trustworthy. EAT. Yep. And then there's a whole bunch of technical stuff you have to do to make sure your site is searchable and loads quickly, and various other sort of kind of housekeeping things. So I've probably mystified your audience and mystified my mother at that point.
So basically what you're saying is, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, did it actually fall? It's like if you wrote a blog article, would somebody read it? And the answer is no, unless you're answering a question that your customers are curious about. And if that answer happens to showcase what you do and sell, all the better. And if you make it easy for Google to figure that shit out, then it's the trifecta and stuff happens.
Let me give you a really good example of this. We had a client 5 years ago that was doing very clever things in Microsoft Azure. They were doing high performance computing in Azure. And they had a product that they had developed called ACE, Advanced Computing Engine, that took a very, very large spreadsheets from Excel and put them up in Azure so you could calculate them quickly. And not the kind of spreadsheets you and I make, but like insurance companies that have spreadsheets where when you press calculate, it takes 8 hours to calculate the spreadsheet. Right. It's got millions of cells and complex formulae in it, it's doing modeling and stuff, right? So if you're an insurance company and you've got one of these sort of risk analysis spreadsheets, if you can make that run in 10 minutes, not 8 hours, it's a huge competitive advantage. So insurance companies buy bigger and bigger and faster computers to run these Excel models. And so this company moved them up into the cloud. So here's the SEO problem. Nobody knew the name of our client. Nobody knew they made this product, and nobody was searching for ACE or Advanced Computing Engine because nobody had heard of it, right? There was no SEO traffic, tree falling in an empty forest. So we came along and we wrote a series of blog articles like how to improve Excel performance, or how to pimp my Excel was one notable title, nice. I remember. And various things like that, because we figured the audience, they all had Excel, they all had frustrations with it being too slow. So we wrote these articles about how to optimize Excel. Of the 10, 15 things that we were suggesting, one of them was check out Advanced Computing Engine, because we can put your stuff in the cloud and it will run in 10 minutes. And in the first month of running that, they got thousands of page views on that content, and they got hundreds of signups to a white paper that we had written about it. And we weren't talking about the product at all. We were talking about people's pain points and the things that people were searching for. How do I make Excel faster? But in a subset of the people who are searching for that really, really needed this product, and that's how they sold it.
So let's say, like, we're in the business of mindset and confidence and getting rid of anxiety. One of the focus areas are realtors. So realtors have anxiety where they don't do the things they need to do to make money and get more customers. So how does one go looking for the right title for that? Do you use Google to search to try and find what people are looking for? Like, well, what do you recommend?
So a number of ways you can get at that. First of all, business anthropology. Ask people, where do you get when you dear estate agent, realtor, when you've got anxieties about what are those anxieties? How do you express those anxieties? Where do you go for information about that? What do you type into Google to, you will get ideas from that, right? Ask somebody.
Yeah.
Second thing, you can ask yourself the obvious questions, like, if I was a realtor and I was having stress about sales, what would I type into Google? How to increase realty sales. That would be a thing. Or, how to deal with, what happens if the sales pipeline dries up, or whatever, right? So, you start asking those questions. Google will not only give you a list of answers, but it will also show a box that says people also ask.
Yes.
Okay. So you can start seeing, I asked the question like this, but other people who ask this question also ask this. So it starts showing you not what you think, but what other people think. So that's the second thing. That's free. Then there are products like RFs, Moz, and there's another one, BuzzSumo, where you can type in key phrases like, I don't know, sales anxiety or something, and it will give you the top answers, the top content for those things, and it will give you related keywords, and you can start to populate this mental database of this is the landscape of ideas and how people search. The last thing there's more stuff than this, but the last thing I would recommend is a tool called Answer the Public. And you type in something into that, like, I know, sales anxiety, and it gives you this sort of lovely diagram of all the questions people are asking Google about that. One more tip, actually. Sites like Quora, where you go and ask questions. I was doing SEO for a wine business at one point, and so I went onto Quora and I just looked in the wine section. And all the questions people were asking about wine, like, can I send a bottle back? What's a good red wine with low tannins? How do I choose a good bottle for a date night? These sort of questions that people are putting out there. And what we did, we just went and wrote for the website blog every question that somebody had asked on Quora that had got lots of answers. And we just went and wrote the answers on the blog. And that got that website up from about 2,000 sessions a month to about 25,000 sessions a month. And we probably wrote 25 answers for it. So that's a way of
that's actually brilliant. People are already looking, getting in front of the traffic as opposed to trying to attract them to whatever funky stuff you're doing. So last couple of questions, because we can go on for marketing for like forever.
I've been told I could bore for England about marketing, so yes.
So 2 questions. Number 1, Matthew, what makes you happy?
Well, I'm a bit of a nerd, bit of a geek. So I'm very happy when I'm solving a problem with technology. I like tinkering with my computer and finding things out. And that's always been the case. I used to design computer games for Lego, and I'm an adult fan of Lego. So I find building Lego models relaxing. I like spending time with my wife and my family. I find that relaxing. I don't know. I don't know if that's the usual stuff, but
no, yeah, it's the right answer for you. Happy. What is one mind hack, one trick that you use to be more productive, sleep better, sell more, bring more joy into your life? What's one thing you'd like to share with the world?
We'd all like to bring more joy into our lives, wouldn't we? I think there are 2, and they're both blindingly obvious. I tend to do my best work in the morning. So if I get up and I'm working at 6:30 or 7 at my desk, that couple of hours before everybody starts asking me questions is very productive. Other people work best at night or in the afternoon. Find your time, productive time, and protect it. Right? If you're, I block out Fridays and I don't do meetings on a Friday, so I have one day a week when I'm not beset by other people's questions. So that's one tip. Another thing that I've always done, and again, this is blindingly obvious, and I think getting things done got there first. But if I have a thing in my mind that, like, I must remember to do this or that, I always write it down, and I have a very carefully structured system. I use a little app on my phone and on my computer. So I'm always writing. I don't necessarily do everything I write down, but it means I'm not walking around with my head full of jobs to do. I can try to keep my mind clear for the thing I'm doing. Now, here's my request. If anyone's watching this or listening to this and they've got a way of reducing the amount of meetings you have in a day, I would love to know how to do that, because all I do is clear space for meetings and then somebody else comes and occupies my time. So that's the problem I'm working on now.
That is a good thing. We'll talk offline about that. Matthew, thank you so much for being on the show. Learned a lot, and you're a master of your craft. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.